president-elect.
But isn't it also surprising to see a coup d'etat president and as a military officer in the case of Burkina Faso, so ultimately attended a fashion like this?
What is wrong with that?
Well, I mean, so why are you cool? He's not an elected president.
Why are you cool? Okay, stand there. You want to go to school?
Yes, I mean, why not?
He's a head of state.
Yes.
Head of state, former, informer. Either coup or elected. He represents a certain country called Burkina Faso.
Yes, sure.
As a head of state.
Yes.
Meboa.
Yes.
So, why was he invited? Ono, Pediasi Declaration 1, Declaration 2, Declaration 3. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the Ghana and the ECOWAS. Declarations of Pediasi 1 and 2 and are turning the table of Burkina Faso. Say Omunka African Union, ECOWAS Hubium.
I see.
Oma suspend you. Right?
Yes.
The declaration 1 not suspended Dumboya.
Yes.
Of Guinea.
Yes.
And the declaration 2 suspended Assimi Goïta of Mali. And the 3 suspended Damiba.
Okay.
Paul Henry Santiago Damiba, Burkina Faso.
Yes.
On the name Captain Traore.
Yeah.
But then Captain Traore ni Damibano, you can't call it that a coup d'etat. It was a change of regime.
Okay.
A palace coup.
Okay.
The boss no. And on any coup. And the coup the two Kabori. The two Kabori no.
And on those two.
The two Kabori no. The junta's mission was that ye caught near mercenaries. Ye caught near you for Akokun, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Sawad and Sadin. All the rebels and the terrorist group are all pretty Burkina. But omnya power new year two Kabori ma Kabori Johnny Yeno. And Paul Henry Santiago Damiba. The ideals and philosophy ideologies are the year kuno. Na undi so he was turning back to the French.
Oh, I see.
To behave the same way like Kabori was doing. So the boy also had a formation. Ibiasida, SMC1, SMC2, which is Kutu a champion, and then FWK a Kufu.
Yeah.
Do you understand me?
Yes.
It was something like that. Now, what I say, I didn't coup d'etat. Your friend is a coup d'etat leader, and I said,
yes.
Why military regime? Let me put it on records, and I've heard one of the reasons Godwin Firma Mekasemeba and the normal circumstances.
Yeah, sure.
Once throughout the electioneering year, I don't grant interviews. I try to stay neutral in some cases, but I think too much pollution in the air, so we must set it straight.
The record
we must set a lot of record straight in this particular studio.
Yes.
Weapon.
Yes.
The same seat. That is why I decided to come here and set this record straight, and that is how it is.
Okay.
The United Nations of the congregation of 178 countries is the International Democratic Forum, congregation of all democratic governments and the governments of the world, with Secretary General of the UN, Awatiho. How many of the African leaders in the 80s, in the 90s, we had as many as almost 24 African leaders who were all wearing military uniforms into the UN General Assembly chamber.
Wow.
Jerry Rawlings, back to back, 19-year rule, or UN General Assembly with uniform 11 years. Sani Abacha, or UN General Assembly with military uniform. Obasanjo, or UN General Assembly, all throughout his government, until Buhari ni Idiagbon too, they were also going to the UN General Assembly.
Yeah, sure.
Now, Nigeria, Abacha, Olusegun Obasanjo, Buhari, UN General Assembly. What about Habre? What about Lassana Conte? What about Lamizana?
Yes.
Chad, Niger, Burkina Faso had a military leader who was Blaise Compaoré. UN General Assembly for how many times? At that time, Sierra Leone, Valentine Srasa, 25 years, with Sadj Musa, 23 years. They were going to UN General Assembly with military uniform. John Jerry Rawlings went with military uniform.
Yeah.
Sierra Leone had a military leader. Guinea had a military leader. Guinea-Bissau, they had military leader. Omar Bashir, Central African Republic, Bongi. All this at that time, Obiako UN General Assembly, plus what about the Latin Americans? What about the Caribbeans? Cuba, Fidel Castro, almost or UN General Assembly without with any suit or with military uniform. The observer to the UN General Assembly, yes, Arafat, or the uniform, and called uniform, the Vice Clinton, White House.
Oh.
Back to back military uniform.
I see.
There is nowhere all those professors and then lecturers, security experts, no say were a democratic president and didn't know ma kwame the military no country we in our governance system. How many military leaders have ruled this country longer than democratic?
Yes, absolutely.
Yet Ghana every time is one of the countries in Africa that spoke on the UN podium with a military uniform. So it is not a crime, it is not bad that the gentleman came here with his uniform. Ogel of Gabon,
yes, Gabon,
he decided to wear. Ogel did not come because he was from Central Africa. Ogel came because he's a friend, coach me, of President Mahama.
Oh.
So at the instance of the president, he came.
I see.
Don't forget, I have coordinated with Osei J of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, yes, former Foreign Minister,
yes,
when His Excellency Nando Dankwa was sworn in 7th January. The same way, I stood in as the liaison officer coordinating for the Republic of Ghana.
Oh, okay.
And then Osei J stood in for Ghana. We received him, the president. There are a lot of things we don't have time. So now let's come back to why Traore's issue had become an issue.
Yes.
Ebi said, Ukra gun.
Yes, on the two questions.
What are we talking about here? We're talking about people are reading regular security intelligence. About cyber security near here. We are talking about diplomatic security. Diplomacy has its own intelligence. Diplomacy has its own security. And I'm putting on record. Diplomacy is not about anybody's social illustrations.
Okay.
It's not about anybody's intelligence. It's not about anybody's assumption. It's not about anybody's presumptions. And it's not about anybody's feelings. Diplomacy is a principle. Diplomacy is a standard. Diplomacy deals with objectivity.
Okay.
Diplomacy deals with subjectivity.
Oh, it deals with objectivity and subjectivity.
So you must be subjective, a topical subject. You must be an objective, that this is it. Okay. This object.
I see.
Yes. And it goes not with anybody's feelings. So what we saw, and it said, 6 January 2025, 11:59 p.m., Ghana Air swear in new parliament.
Yeah.
His Excellency Nana-Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the regime comes to an end soon as the parliament of his republic, of his government is dissolved.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, sure.
So 59 p.m., who mounts into the podium? The Ghana presidency goes back to the Chief Justice. Because parliament is dissolved.
No speaker.
No speaker.
Yes.
So within an hour, President of the Republic of Ghana, interim, at that time, Chief Justice. Chief Justice moved to be a president of Ghana until 1 hour or 1.5 hours. In between that time, no, office clerk, the clerk of the parliament, induction, roll call, and mentioning of the incoming members of parliament, swearing in those who are going to swear in on the 9th. Chief Justice, you know, never swear parliamentarians in. The speaker.
Yeah, sure.
So between that time, no, Ghana president, Chief Justice, okay, or swear in Speaker of Parliament, around 12:01 thereabout. I stand to be corrected on the time, but around 1:30. Ghana president goes back to Aban Gbagben.
Yes.
So Aban Gbagben at that time becomes the Ghana president. From that time until 12:30 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. or 11 p.m. a.m. Kopim say you best a new president.
Okay.
So this is the catch. Burkina Faso the guy, 36-year-old boy, he's super intelligent. Who are the people sitting there? Tinubu was there.
Yeah, Tinubu was there,
ECOWAS has declared him not a member. They later wanted to warm themselves to him diplomatically one man tiase oma for Sahel into Adane Hoso. If the guy had come to Ghana around 11:52 p.m. on the seat, Nana Addo can cage him in. I'm not saying that he was going to do that, but his security, they can withdraw and expose him to his enemies.
Oh, I see.
So he's not stupid.
I see.
He was not a friend of Ghana. He's a neighbor of Ghana.
Yeah.
But because ECOWAS declaration to reject him and move his country out of ECOWAS was originated from Accra. So he sees Ghana.
I don't meet his own man who had a Muslim.
Peduasi 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I see.
And the guy is not stupid.
Interesting.
And to make it sure, sir, the presidency was not in the hands of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I'm not saying, sir, Nana Beyini Bibi, but we're talking about a trust, faith, and salvation.
Interesting.
Interesting. So I'm inside. What time did he come? Go and check.
Yeah, I remember because as at 7th in the morning, Namibisa omo protocols they said say afe na Burkina Faso president Eba.
So let me take you and the public through. In the time na Obamuno, Gabon leader and Obabe died.
Yeah.
He didn't have any problem.
Yeah, sure.
But when no time na Obamuno, one, there's what is called diplomatic protocol of a visiting head of state or visiting president. I want a security person or my bone or one person.
Yeah, security person.
So from someone when I'm interview or my bone person say. So we invite president head of state. No ababebia your friend be diplomatic protocols.
Okay.
Security protocols. Entry protocols.
Okay.
And say the who host you no. And no obano or the checklist.
Okay. Okay.
The diplomatic checklist of the visit, and he said, may the head of state, head of the delegation, head of state, in this case, Captain Traore, may the 19 soldiers armed, weapon carrying, a trainer the AK-47 4, yeah, the Brent 5, yeah, the Kafenikov 8, pistols, assault rifles, etc. 9.
I see.
And Nipa 13 and the Beshe military uniform, Ekura guns.
In the bag or exposed?
Exposed.
Oh, I see.
Send the protocols or the abanono.
Yes.
Then the team, the government or the president-elect that is hosting him, also saw your validation.
Okay.
Now, no, national security. And for that matter, a military, you deal with the Air Force. You deal with near flight ban or deba. Or some of the commercial jet, but in the case of the Burkina guy, cleverly, or the military jet nearby. So the military jet nearby, on team packet our commercial side.
Okay.
And so the flight in BC Air Force.
Oh.
Now Air Force was kind of flight, No, I sure said, whilst he's out of the aircraft, Obeja 10 or 15 military men manning or guiding the aircraft.
Oh.
No, my drop one more flight, Pilots, and then the co-pilot, and then the air hostess, Omusia, cabin crew for Nisia, straight away to hotel. Omokoju Mahama. Then the military take over with the Ghana military. No more did that flight. And Burkina Faso or Banisha Ukrano. Need to than in chain. Or short flights in no copim send the president. Now, or your military leader and in the protocols, Ghana Army or Air Force have to make sure his security. President Mahama, His Excellency, have been a president. When your protocols, so the Baba Breast on your TV say he has shared with them. And he knows.
Yeah.
So the transition team might not know, but the president knows. Now, it's your normal or say, I'll go through principal streets of Accra Airport direct route. You don't just get up and say, so then
sure.
So your advanced protocol motorcade, obedi car scanning up to the Independence Square and make sure say Trotrobian says you cancel. Burkina Faso leader is spending 12 minutes from the Air Force. Opiano, ebi awanko VVIP lounge.
I don't know Ghana security.
Ghana security ni ono na
the security. Okay.
Ono be chiro.
Oh, okay.
Into our car onko babia straight away Oba Independence Square.
Oh.
Now that is how he's going to enter. Oba and as he did, Oba V-shaped security. Oh na ohwe betu hu de wo chire. V-shape security.
Oh, me Fabajo.
Our soldiers bear 5, 6, 7 or ha.
Yes.
Or bear 6, 7 or ha.
Yes.
Ubia with weapon.
Yes.
What they said.
Yes.
Then he blocked the V at the back. No, be infantry, so he's the arrow man. And he had decided not to drop the car. Baby, our president,
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
that's true.
Did he do
that's
that?
True. Yeah,
yes, it's part of his protocol.
Yes.
Into Oba walk 100 meters or 150 meters, so they can have clarity.
Interesting.
Why? Because our enemies.
Yeah.
Echo as enemy. Tinubu your enemy. Why? Because Tinubu French, pro-French.
Interesting.
His Excellency Nanado, pro-French, but only they know any picture anymore. It does not mean say we are afraid. Say obi betima be che no. Say the enya security officers ni bi aka say expert von bi say adentina okuratu adentina oyeden. One, and the public should notice. It could have been say on a Republic of Ghana government, not Ghana government, President Mahama. I agree. And they have scanned them say tuen kura no. Toy guns. But there is what is called presidential signature, and there's what is called presidential brand.
Okay.
What makes Traore,
yeah.
his brand of dress, his coat of dress, his signature of dress. Wama President Mahama say any security couple no manage president say or the person babo no ho. Me no me nyanko say person could be a toy person.
You need to mean
and I'm say person no cry bibia ni ammunition.
Sure.
But to send a signal that this is the way I go to places. President Pacho Minian but measure hand gloves. Minian measure hand gloves. Meba, this is the way I'm entering into the podium. Other presidents in United Kingdom won't be see anymore.
Yes, of the other side.
Over the other side. The security protocol.
Yes.
And why a V-shaped entry. It is done by KGB.
I see.
To monitor and to guide Putin.
It's not your fans analogy.
No.
Interesting.
It is done by Israeli Mossad.
Wow.
Israel Prime Minister acquired Israel for a V-shape plus. Not Prime Minister ni shape. Where covered or otutua we beji. Now these are special forces are snipers.
Okay.
They didn't come and joke. Aunt now Emma Burkina, a country from almost day one of independence in 1960. Oma you coup d'etat, go and check Burkina democratic elected presidents.
Sure.
Oma you could become you coup 2 days. Obia a prime a head of state 2 days, a bear 10 days, a bear 17 days. And to him say, now before so another have been a coup. And when him say Damiba at Togo Heya. And they could harm him whilst he's coming or whilst he's leaving, not on the podium of the descent. And President had agreed with him, say, yes, Oba, bra.
Okay.
Protocols on President Mama Nina Delia.
Oh, okay.
And the public listening.
Wow.
President Mama is not ordered by any law. Say on country be say no any Burkina Faso leader neighbor. He's aware already what the boy is coming. Obacha say will true right. Obaba Baku left and Baku Baboni now.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to enter. Now people did not read meaning into how the boy went into the podium. Oba and of force there are two things. We call it where diplomacy meets culture.
Yes, where diplomatic
meets culture.
Okay.
A conjuncture of the two. The boy exhibited the two. Very intelligent guy.
Yes.
He went to the podium and straight away to the vice president. And then the Burkina culture. How many tribal settings know Burkina? Half of Burkina population, they are Moshis. They have Fulani.
Okay.
They have the Gurinzi. They have the Mende. They have other tribes. He's a Moshi boy. In the Moshi culture, which we have the same thing in the Ghanaian North. So when you are going to greet a woman who can be your mother, you take off your cap.
Oh, I move video no enter honomo so that we can all relate to it. Yes.
And taking off your cap, you take off with the left. You don't take off the right. It's an insult. So he took off the cap with his left.
With his left. Wow.
And then stretch out. That's diplomacy with the right. And have a handshake with her. Please, uncle Hagen say any mama and aunt and family member ko wie ya ni wie no ko be Hagen. But do Hagen ka Ghana for baka say boy no pe vice president.
Also, cry Nibia, so that.
Wako Hageno. And no by another story.
Interesting.
On my diplomatic handshake. Who was still the president of the Republic of Ghana is already declared. But then who had been the interim president?
That is
our receiver, no. He came here when Abambagwin was the president of Ghana. So he went to Abambagwin. But then, of course, I didn't know Chi Obanwe no. Or Sadeni Chenche. Or the Chenche said, he's a head of state of a country. He's wearing his cap. This is how he dressed.
Okay.
So Otuni Chenche Abambagwin is against diplomacy. He has lowered Burkina Faso to Ghana.
Oh.
And head of state. Vatican head of state is Pope, Holy See.
Wow.
On chain, Ibrahim Traore. On chain, Bassirou Faye of Senegal. Every head of state or head of government, all of them are the same. With the same power. It doesn't matter so a Russia president or Chinese president. In just ordinary Chinese share back. Whoever who be our kokro ya hwanyu.
Or no your pet.
Or no your pet. In terms of the president, age there is a number.
But in the case of the vice president, or your bad year, and your culture.
Oh man, culture. That's culture meeting diplomacy.
Interesting.
The boy existed.
Interesting.
Me, my whole, but I clap for him. I know what was going to happen.
But I was also standing right before, so I was observing, but that means
that is it.
Interesting.
Okochi ani wie no, oko president no, na ne cheshe no. One kasa as president, Mama will put it, is my young brother. So beautiful. Oya ni young brother no, say Okochi president Mama no, went to nature.
That we went to nature because only a pet.
Only a pet. Now another interesting scenario people were talking about Ghana born. Kwame Nkrumah kura walking stick. Sekutore okura walking stick.
Yes.
Mobutu Sese Seko okura walking stick. Kenneth Kaunda no okura walking stick. Eyadema no okura walking stick. Between you and I and all of us in the public listing, security experts Muntie, walking stick. A lot of them are guns. Omar Bashir and the walking stick, and it was a gun.
Oh, I see.
Sanya gun, walking stick, may God forbid, a crown or you win payam. Any true before so obey her or be armono, near this armono, then they dangerous. In Tinka, Traore by and no walking sticker. And Kabakas and dangerous weapon. It's dangerous more than even the gun.
I see.
And nobody knows whether he had ammunition in the gun or it was a toy gun. I wanted the Yamo, near Timanya, professors, lecturers, Ghana security experts, Timika Mujina political science school, a lecture and cry said it was even wrong. So the military uniform, a bad democratically elected president swearing in. And I've told you and I've educated you, say, even the congregation of the United Nations General Assembly, they were wearing more than 35 military uniforms. Mexico for Georgescu of Romania. He was a military leader.
I see.
Or called UN chamber with military uniform. What about the Peru? What about the Ecuador? What about El Salvador? What about the Colombiana? What about Papua New Guinea? All of them were military leaders in the 90s, etc. But they come to the UN chamber with military uniform. So please, let's get it clear. So I'm crying mutual diplomacy. I'm not to try to check my So lecture biaba. No Baba Kachi will say democratically elected president, you have military uniform coach and Kachi and say UN Secretary General you the military uniform chairman.
I see.
I've cleared that part of it.
Yeah, sure.
So the guy came.
No, but before you proceed, Mami who said this same scenario, yeka wasem EBS dana.
Say Obi president Bikra Kwacha Obi.
Yes.
Now you be it is even extreme for anybody to imagine.